We have about 5,000 volumes here, all horse disciplines, activities that you have any interest in. We do publish a magazine called the Mid-Atlantic Thoroughbred and sort of focus our efforts on thoroughbreds, but the library is here to appeal to everybody. People who know something and people who don't. So we have had monthly talks, we've had author signings, we've had a book sale, and I invited the Retired Racehorse Project because it's a very important group to our industry, to the thoroughbred industry, and was started here in Maryland. Kirsten will tell you a little bit about it, but the Maryland Horse Breeders Association, I would venture to say, was the first person to support the effort of Stuart Gutman, now county executive in Anne Arundel County, but a huge part of encouraging people to find other careers with their thoroughbred horses. He loved his, I'll talk a little bit about it, but he loved his thoroughbred event horses so much so that he really wanted to make an effort for people to have show horses, event horses, etc. Thoroughbred show horses in my day and age, I'm old, but I was showing horses in the 70s and 80s, and they were the primary, really hunter jumper show horses. So they sort of went out of fashion. They're back in fashion for a lot of reasons. One reason is the Retired Racehorse Project. So we're really happy to have them here today, and you can hear about what they're doing and what other groups are doing. The thoroughbred aftercare, and learning about what thoroughbreds, what happens to them after they stop racing has become very important. People want to hear about it, they want to know about it, and I agree. I say that Maryland, I think, was a leader not just because of the RRP, but because we have people already doing that. They would take their racehorses and turn them into fox hunters or steeplechase horses. The other disciplines that we have, polo ponies, and just whatever they could do with them if that was something that they had the ability to do. Thoroughbred horses are very adaptable. They're also quick and agile and smart, and sometimes difficult, but they are a wonderful breed. So I'm going to turn it over to Kirsten Green, the executive director. Long time involvement. So to talk about RRP and then let some people who have been intimately involved in it tell you about their experience. You want this, or should, if you don't need it, put it away.
Thank you, Cricket, and thank you for offering us to be here today. We're happy to host an annual board meeting here and have talked a lot about some of those types of things that I'm going to give a rundown here. I want to talk a little bit in the beginning just about RRP and aftercare, and then we're going to talk with our panel here some about just participating in our flagship program, which is the Thoroughbred Makeover. So I have with me here today Lindy Gutman, Napravnik, and Clare and Tom Mansmann. Clare and Tom are also board members, but all of these fine people have participated in the makeover quite a bit over the last couple of years, and are all based, well, these two are Marylanders, and you're just on the other side of the Congo line. So I just want to talk a little bit about what aftercare is and what RRP is, and one of the central themes in our board meeting earlier today was that it's not quick to describe what this is and how hard that is for our overall organization and fundraising, because it's just hard to make a quick pitch, but I will try to be brief. So aftercare is the term that has come to define the industry that helps horses transition from their lives as thoroughbred racehorses and into whatever their next career looks like. As RRP defines it, our aftercare can be done a number of different ways, and it doesn't necessarily have to be charitable. So there are certainly aftercare facilities that are nonprofits. Many of them are accredited by Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance or Thoroughbred Charities of America. There's other entities that are nonprofits that are affiliated with particular tracks or racing jurisdictions. A great example here in Maryland is Beyond the Wire. That is a function of Maryland Jockey Club and is supported extensively by the various breeders groups and horsemen's groups here in Maryland. The way that they function is that they help to network their horses out to affiliate farms, and there are a number of organizations around the country that are modeled that way. There's listing agencies, also for-profit and nonprofit. Probably probably the best known one is Cantor. So they are a volunteer organization. They work with horsemen at no cost to help list their horses and get them transitioned into second careers. But you also have for-profit people doing that take a little bit of a commission. And then you also have for-profit entities that we consider to be resellers, which many of these guys here would kind of fall into that category because they are trainers in the equestrian business and in the sport horse business that part of their business model and with their clients is to take on horses and transition them and then sell them after a period of time. So that's kind of the different facets of aftercare in North America. We've been racing here, particularly in Maryland. Maryland can be credited for being the oldest organized racing entity in the United States. I think close with New York, right? There might have been some racing activity in New York, but we have been around longer than racing in Kentucky has, which we're very proud of. And Stuart Pittman's family actually has a property called Doden Farm that has been in the family since the colonial era, and that's how far their history goes back with thoroughbred racing. So it's very fitting that he has family horses that raced for the Annapolis subscription plate, like right in our backyard in Annapolis, and that carries forward into the current generation and I think really informed his passion and how he got involved in this. So the Retired Racehorse Project fits into aftercare in a kind of facet that we refer to as kind of education and advocacy. So they're the people that are doing the kind of boots on the ground work. They're taking listings, they are moving horses through their facilities or moving horses through their business models. But somebody has to do the work of giving people an incentive to ride a thoroughbred and giving them the resources that they need to be successful. And so that's where our organization fits in, and also similar organizations like the Thoroughbred Incentive Program or Take Two Justice Program. So those are organizations that are just trying to increase the incentive for people competing in riding thoroughbreds. So our organization was founded here actually back in 2009. We did the first Retired Racehorse Training Symposium at Maryland Therapeutic Riding in Brownsville. And that was basically Stuart Pittman looked around one day and was like, why isn't anybody riding thoroughbreds anymore? This is somebody who built a career for himself, riding and training thoroughbreds, and then ultimately standing a thoroughbred event stallion named Salute the Truth. And he had, some like-minded individuals that were clients and things like that at Doden Farm Training Center. And they started doing the symposium, and then later in 2010, we got our 501c3 status, and away we went. But it's truly a Maryland-based organization. We say RP is Maryland-born, Maryland-bred. And some of our earliest supporters as far back as that first symposium back in 2009 were the Maryland Horse Breeders, were the Maryland Jockey Club, and have stood the test of time and are still strong supporters of ours today, and help us push forward and launch new initiatives. Kirby can certainly be given some credit for convincing me to add broodmares to the Thoroughbred Makeover, which is new for this year. And so we really gained our momentum here in the Mid-Atlantic region doing short format demonstrations and clinics and training challenges at Maryland Horse World Expo and Timonium and that sort of thing until we launched the Thoroughbred Makeover, which in the very first 2 years was right on the home stretch of Pimlico Racehorse. So that followed two different formats in 2013 and 2014, and then we said, in true Stuart fashion, go big or go home, and we said, we're taking it to Kentucky, and we're going to run it at the Kentucky Horse Park. So now we operate the Thoroughbred Makeover, which is the largest and most lucrative thoroughbred retraining competition in North America. We're drawing in participation from typically about 40 or so states and provinces each year. We've impacted over 4,000 horses since 2015 with this program, and these are horses that are recently retired. There's an eligibility window that advances each year, and trainers that we approve to participate acquire these horses through whatever means they are comfortable with, and train them over the course of 10 months to participate in the event, which is held every October at the Kentucky Horse Park. This has had an impact on aftercare in that we're increasing demand, we're inspiring people to choose thoroughbreds, we're giving them the resources that they need to be successful. The community that is a part of the makeover is another big piece of that. And while that is our flagship program, we do a lot of other activities that are around education and providing support so that people can be inspired to choose a thoroughbred to ride and have the resources and support that they need to be successful. So that's where we fit into the whole landscape. But I wanted you guys to hear from some people that have actually done the thoroughbred makeover and ask any questions that you may have about if you're thinking about participating or what kind of impact that it's had. So again, Lindy, Jazz, Clare, and Tom. Lindy has participated a couple of years, but is possibly best known for bringing Talk Show Man in 2020. 2020. Jazz also is quite active in the racing steeplechasing community here and has participated in a couple of years, but her possible most noteworthy horse is Paige McKinney. Is he 2020? Yep. And Clare and Tom have been coming since they linked into the Kentucky Horse Park on a slightly broken down truck in 2016, but it's become a big part of their business model at Pacific Farms down in Hume, Virginia. They bring several horses each year. It's a big part of their program, and they expose their clients and support their clients in coming to the makeover. And now they're our board members, so they're stuck with us. But I know you guys have credited the makeover with being a big part of your business model and your approach to things. So maybe we could just go down the line and say just quickly about yourself and your background and like how you decided to enter the makeover.
Hello?
Yeah.
There we go. So my name is Lindy Gutman, and I differ from the rest of the people up here in that I ride as an amateur. I'm not a professional. So I had been to every makeover since I started at Pimlico. I have a full-time job. That is what I do to pay for my horses. And I just loved watching it. And in 2015, I inadvertently actually met somebody at the Aiken Trials. And we stayed in touch. And she took a horse to the makeover, fullback. He was second in dressage in 2015. And I hadn't really thought about going back to thoroughbreds. I was riding a quarter horse at the time. But this horse was so cool. And one at a Christmas party, I said to her, the only way I would ride a thoroughbred is if you would sell me fullback. And he wasn't for sale. And she said, if you wanted fullback, I would consider selling him. So to make a very long story short, I did end up with him. And it really, it don't make me emotional, it's not complex more advanced, but it really has totally changed my life. So it's not just fullback, but it was fullback and him making me realize that I had the ability as a not brave amateur to ride a thoroughbred, but also that if there was one for me, that there is one for everybody. It's just a matter of finding the right horse. It's not a matter of taking whatever comes your way. So I think that's really been it for me. And then I had asked Kirsten, who happens to be my veterinarian, at one point if he would consider letting me take Talk Show Man to the makeover, and I promise you can have him back as soon as it's over. And, it took about 2.5 months before he turned around and came back to me and said, let's talk about your plans for Talk Show Man. So I sat patient for 2.5 months, and it's been a dream come true. It was pure luck. I didn't know the horse. I had only seen him, and I knew that he was cute. I didn't know a lot about his disposition. I didn't know a lot about him. It was complete and pure, complete luck. Jazz was actually there the first day, because I'm like, so I got this horse, and I just in case he goes crazy, I need somebody to sit on her. And so she came, and for professional, true Jazz style, she got on him, and he was pretty close to perfect. And I think she sat on him for 6 minutes, and she jumped off and she said, he's yours. And really since then, that's been the way it is, so.
Can you talk a little bit about this race? He's a pretty good racer.
Yeah, so, forgot about that part. So top show animals actually, and I think this goes to the adage as well, that a lot of people think slow horses make good riding horses, and this is truly an example of the opposite. He won 2 Maryland Million races, and he also won the Henry S. Clark Stakes. And he won $500,000 on the track, and I think his record actually belies his determination because he only won 8 races on the track. But if you look at his race record, aside from the few times that he came off the track and then went back to the farm for time off, he truly ran well every time he ran. And he ran through the age of 9. He ran mostly on the turf. And I think that helped with his longevity as well because he was turned out every winter back at Dr. Harrison's farm. And so he would go to the track, he would train pretty much all season for the Maryland Million turf once they discovered that was really his game. And then he would go home. And then he would come back in the spring with Hamilton Smith and he would race the Maryland Million turf and then he would go home. He actually ran on Maryland Million Day 5 times. So as Gelding.
Just so people know, a lot of times they aren't going to go into the stallion, and also the time off. So it's a good point that trainers gave him time to recover when they didn't make the racing because they're trainers. So that's just a really good point to make with this horse, and the trainers are very considerate of that. Most of them, it helps the longevity of the racing.
And we were at some race tours at Pimlico last week, and we made kind of like trading cards, so to speak, of a couple of horses that have completed the makeover but ran in stakes races at previous meet. And we have some of them here, which also included Jazz and Lindy's horses. It's a great illustration of the fact that there's a statistical likelihood that thoroughbreds are going to have to go on and do something outside of the racing industry at some point. It's only the kind of elite few that get kind of returned back into the bloodstock industry. And certainly at the thoroughbred makeover, the majority of horses that are coming through our program are not highly successful. They have had, maybe they've made like $20,000 or $30,000 tops and, are retiring at 4, 5, 6. But on this postcard, turnstile thing out there, you'll see a number of horses that were quite successful at the track that have gone on to do really impressive things outside of racing as well.
I stole Jazz's mic because I wanted to add too. I think it becomes even more interesting because Dr. Harrison, having a farm of his own, hadn't been super active in aftercare because he didn't have to be. Aftercare for his thoroughbreds where they were, if he still had them at the end of the racing career and they were mares that were coming home to be bred. And if they were geldings, they were coming home to be babysitters and be turned out. So until I had asked for Talk Show Man, his aftercare program was I'm going to take care of these horses until I die, which is a really good aftercare program. I think that seeing this has changed some of his perspective on that. And for the record, Talk Show Man, if you go to Dr. Harrison's farm now, you will see his mother. She's still there. She's 23 years old. She has a filly by her side. She has a 2-year-old, or he has a 2-year-old half brother by Gutman, and he also has a 3-year-old full brother that is back and forth headed to the track. He's been in training, and they're just not rushing it. So he's 3. So there are some siblings coming up. I almost did that. I almost did that. He does have a beer named after him. Pharmacy Brewing is located at Willowdale Farm, which is owned by Dr. Harrison. There is a beer. It's not on tap at the moment, much to my chagrin. But there is a beer frequently on tap. Should be out again by summertime. His mother's in the first paddock with his half sister. So don't bring your dog to a working farm. Yeah.
Did you already say this was a Talk Show Man named after the late Mansmann?
He is. He was named after the late great Radio Rose Mansmann.
Mike Harrison's a big thing.
Yeah, family friend, I think, personal friend.
So my name is Napravnik, and I guess my relationship with Stuart, which I'm obviously with RFP, goes back to 2002 and maybe even before that. I had a thoroughbred mare that my mom got me when I was 13. She was my junior racing horse, so I was caught in the racing industry as a teenager. And she was kind of a bottom claimer at Charlestown back in the won like 8 races and made $14,000. That kind of racing. Anyways, so while all the other girls in high school were scrolling through 17 magazine, I was scrolling through the Blood Horse stud edition. And Salute the Truth happened to be in there. And he was standing at stud, and I grew up in eventing. And I eventually came down to Maryland. I moved here in 2001. And I decided to breed my childhood mare. And I chose Salute the Truth because I was really looking for a racehorse, but also I love steeplechasing. And if all else went wrong, hopefully it could jump. And we could make it an adventure. So I actually trained the only two racehorses that Salute the Truth sired. My home bred Clare Salute, and a longtime owner, Jim Bryant, who actually bred Peter Kenny. The first horse he had as a racehorse, Tatiana Salute. So that was my start with Stewart. And then fast forward to 2010, I was really hoping to help flat owners get more interested in how lucrative steeplechasing could be for a lot of the racehorses that were dropping down the ranks, that maybe had more distance pedigree than they had sprinting, and they weren't riding the long grass races for these horses that weren't stakes quality. So I actually participated in the 2010 makeover with a horse called So Outspoken, and we just basically, it's kind of it wasn't what it is today, let's put it that way. But we just tried to showcase how he transitioned from the racetrack to steeplechasing. And then eventually my sister, who was a professional jockey, she retired and went back to eventing as well. And she started participating in the thoroughbred makeover. Was her first race 2015?
Yeah, with a horse from Secretariat Center.
Okay, so she started in 2015, and then I think 2019 she asked me to be on a team with her, because they were starting to, I think it was being very popular, they were starting to limit how many horses you could have. I think at that point you had like 2 individuals and a team horse, so she had 3 going, and she's like, will you be on my team? We're going to do show hunters. So I'm like, it's totally out of both of our wheelhouses, mind you. We go faster than that. Anyway, so she had this cute little horse, I think his name was Sam I Am. And My Man Sam. There you go. My Man Sam. And we did the show hunters, and I think we finished in the top 20 out of a lot, like 90 or so. So we were thrilled with that. And that was a lot of fun. It was also the year that she won the eventing on Santa Mountain. And so this was fun. That was my first real experience at the Kentucky Horse Park, and I was like, I really want to do this. About a month later, I had a horse come into my barn that was for sale, and we didn't quite think that he would hold up to a racing career, so the trainer asked me to see if I could move him on. And at this point, I was still training racehorses full-time. And so I love this big, gorgeous 17-hand chestnut horse who probably came out of the womb knowing how to jump. Because the first log I pointed him at, he thought he was going advanced. And so I did a little quick, confirmation shot, a little free school video. I was still full-time racing. I wasn't into selling horses, but as a horse lover, seeing horses on the track, I just didn't belong there. I always wanted to help them find their way into whatever discipline they belonged into best. So I posted this cute horse named Chet that was nicknamed Chester on Facebook, and we all know we can't sell a lot of animals on Facebook, so you get creative with your ads. And high off my sister's win at the makeover, I posted something along the lines of bold, brave, bodacious. I used a lot of the adjectives. And who wants to sponsor me to win the thoroughbred makeover next year in Evanston? It was like my tagline. Wouldn't that be so cool?
I was very confident.
Well,
In signature or private position.
it was my way of saying this horse is really nice, basically. And I got a call from my former boss's sister-in-law, who I knew kind of in passing. She showed up the next morning and she loved him, and she was going to look at him for a fox, as a fox hunter. And he's a hot horse. He's a hot horse. Her husband really wasn't so sure that, she wasn't in her 20s anymore, and was this really the hot horse she wanted? But she fell in love with him. And she looked at me, and I think after we vetted and she goes, you know, if you want to take him to the makeover, you can. I'm like, are you serious? Like, that was kind of a joke, but twist my arm a little harder and let me say yes, yes, yes. So I'd like to acknowledge and thank Barbie Cornifer for buying Chester, otherwise known as Legends Hope. Yeah, and not only was she going to support me for the next 10 months, because she bought it like the 1st of December-ish, give or take a couple days. Support me for the next 10 months to take him to the makeover and have him in full training with me. And I was going to take him as a fox owner because that's what Barbie had intended for his purpose. And then COVID hit. And I'm like, well, there we go. She's like, no, hang on. So for a whole nother year, because the 2020 makeover went to the mega makeover in 21, she stuck by me. And the long story short is he went on to not only win the eventing, but be 3rd in show jumping. So a lot of thanks goes to Barbie for really getting me involved. But 2020 was a spectacular year because another horse that I had broke and trained for his first couple career starts was getting ready to retire in 2019. And I called his owner, Jim Bryant, and said, let me know when Paige McKenney retires. I'd love to get him back and take him to the Thoroughbred Makeover. I think he'd be an amazing ambassador for the sport because he's such a popular horse. He has his own Facebook page and showcase what a cool horse he is. And I knew him as a baby, so I just loved him. And Jim's like, well, he's not ready to retire yet, but I'll let you know. You'll be first on the list. I think I got a call about a month later. He's retired. And you can take him to the makeover. And I think he kind of stressed an old tendon at the time. So he was going to go home and rest for a little bit. And he came to me February 2020. And again, another amazing owner stuck by with me while we went a whole extra year to the makeover. And Paige finished 3rd in the field hunter division, which again, he was going to go to eventing. And he thought dressage was a speed event. So I wasn't sure how that was going to go. So I took him hunting one day, and he's like, this is my jam. This is my jam. And now Jim and I have an arrangement where he spends his summers at home on the farm in Virginia, so they can enjoy him. And he comes to me for the field hunting season, so he still has a job, because he's 13 this year, full of life, and he is the loveliest Wades hunter. And then my 3rd horse for 2020 was a mare who I got and ran over hurdles. Now, she unfortunately had a really significant injury in her last hurdle race. It was March of 19. March of 19. My vet said she obliterated her suspensory ligament. And it was really bad. I didn't know if I was going to have to put her down. That's how bad it was. And I certainly wasn't going to make her suffer. I was going to do whatever was right by the horse. And the next morning, she was bearing some weight on it. And my vet's like, I don't think you should put her down. I'm like, okay. So she was going to be rehabbed for 18 months, which now puts us basically August of 2020. And she would have been ineligible for 21 because of the timing and the eligibility rules. So there was no way she was going to do the makeover when COVID hit. And we had postponed a year. We decided, I started her back about August of 2020. For the mega makeover 21 in the 2020 division. And she has become an amazing dressage horse. She has worked her way up to 2nd level. And I didn't know about the boys. You know, Chester's got a lot of enthusiasm. He has a lot of athleticism. It doesn't always get displayed in the correct arena. Sometimes it's more dressage. Paige McKenney kind of forgot how to jump that summer. 21, I mean, I'm telling you, we had 2 stops at beginner novice the weekend before the makeover. He was still like, oh, I forgot to jump. Well, I don't know what happened between that week, but he remembered. Thank goodness. But Bernice, Crazy Bernice is her name, and her half-brother is my lovely jumper. But Crazy Bernice, she knew how to put on a show. This mare loved dressage. I was working with a really nice trainer too. We had our musical freestyle. We had practiced it at schooling shows because we were going to the finale and we were winning, okay? Hands down. did not really display us very well in the demo test. I think we might have finished like 49 out of 53. 47. But the 2020 makeover was the most amazing experience. I still love Bernice. She's still the most awesome thing. She actually just had a foal a week ago maybe. A week ago tomorrow. And Legends Hope and Chester, we moved him up to prelim last year. He's been amazing. And like I said, Peter again has been my amazing field hunter. Well, Barbie had so much fun being an owner at the thoroughbred makeover that she had a couple of young thoroughbreds the following year and said, take your pick. And so the horse I actually really didn't like at all the first time I sat on him. At all. He didn't listen to my hands, he didn't listen to my legs, he basically ignored everything I had to say. But he was also very quiet. I think it took us a week or a little pause in partnership. And he kind of learned how to jump. I was like, you might be okay. And so Barbie and I decided to make the trip to Kentucky again with Lucian for 2022. And he was amazing. He was first in the preliminaries and field hunters. And I think by the end of the day on Thursday, which is the second day of competition. Now, you haven't been to the makeover, is the longest week of your life. My life anyways, I don't know, you can ask these guys, but it's the longest week of my life. It's like worse than like finals in college. Anyways, so by the time we got to our show running round on the end of Thursday, I think we were both a bit cross-eyed tired. He still finished 7th out of 77-ish, I think. And he just did an amazing job. And he's a young horse who's only 4. My 2020 horses were all a bit older. And he is now Barbie's lovely lady field hunter. Actually, I think her husband might have stolen from her. But he finished first in the prelims, second in the finale in field hunters, and 7th in show jumping. So the thoroughbred makeover has been amazing. In that 2020 year, I did retire from training racehorses and went back to my roots in eventing. And so now I have a business model, sort of what Kirsten was talking about earlier, about where I do select horses off the track. Horses I think will make good sport horses, particularly for amateurs. A lot of my clients are similar to Lindy, where they're good riding adult amateurs, but they're not professionals. They don't want the hot-headed, they don't want the really spicy and nervous ones. So I have a very specific horse I look for. And I just love turning them out for the first time and teaching them about farm life. And then I kind of have this little method where we go on a lot of field trips in the first 2 weeks. And these are fit horses. They probably just ran. They're coming right from the track. And I know a lot of people like to let horses down. And there are certainly plenty of horses out there that need that downtime to just sit and do nothing. I do try to select horses that don't need that downtime, that can stay in their routine, that can stay kind of in school, if you will. We're just switching schools. And so we go on what I call field trips. So I will take them to a friend's farm. I will get them on the trailer and go hacking. I will take them over to our kennels and let them see the pack of hounds just that are, walking out in the morning for their daily exercise, not hunting necessarily. And expose them to as many different things as I can in the first 2 weeks to get an idea of where does this horse want to go in his life? Who is he going to be most suitable for? What discipline is he going to be really good for? I currently have a horse that I picked up the first Sunday in May, 7th, the day after the Derby. Big Frank is his name. So that was 2 weeks ago yesterday. Well, yesterday, I had one of my 11-year-old students take him to a thoroughbred show down the street at Tranquility Manor Farms. And he won, he placed, I think he's 6th among like 15 seasoned thoroughbred show hunters. Super quiet. I mean, I've got this little 11-year-old kid riding him around, walk, trot, canter, jump across rails. So they're just such an amazing breed. They can really figure out a new job quickly, and they're intelligent, and they're smart, and I love that the RP has given this new birth, because I would want to sit on anything but a thoroughbred. Actually, I exclusively train thoroughbreds. And ponies, because I'm pony club kids, but I've taken a couple non-thoroughbreds into my barn, but I will now turn away anything that's not a thoroughbred. There are certainly other lovely breeds out there for other lovely people, but I definitely prefer the thoroughbred. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything that comes with them, the bold, the brilliance, and the brains, and the intelligence, and all of that. So, I don't know if you'll see me competing at the Thoroughbred Makeover this year. I did have to sort of make a choice between the TIP Championships and the Makeover, because they're back-to-back weekends. Of course, if I find a really nice horse and they let me put in a late application, I might try to pull off the impossible and go from Maryland to Aiken to Kentucky, and then, I don't know,
So, just what the tip program, to just tell them a little
the
bit.
TIP program is the Thoroughbred Incentive Program. I believe it's been developed by the Jockey Club. And it's across all disciplines, including pleasure riding. Basically, I know Lindy's more experienced with it. You can log your hours, and they have awards and prizes for all kinds of different areas of riding. And the TIP Championships, there's a couple of the Makeover hosts, well, the Kentucky Horse Park hosts some TIP Championship divisions alongside the Thoroughbred.
Western divisions,
There you go.
and so that's including ranch riding from trail and barrel racing, and we also host their Central Region Dressage Championships, and we can get into that too.
The very basic knowledge, the Jockey Club is the national registry for thoroughbreds. And so they had to, when they saw RRP coming and second careers for thoroughbreds, the Jockey Club had to get with it. And they had to start the TIP program and, explain to people and work with people to encourage, again, other careers. So that was good. The Jockey Club is a little old-fashioned, so that was a big deal for them.
The
And I think you guys really helped push that, they had to adapt to it.
I've actually never thought of it that way, but we are a year or two older than TIP and
Because a lot of people who bought, I don't mean to interrupt you, because we're going to, but people who got thoroughbreds, and at that point they had tattoos on their lip from when they had raced, and they always wanted to know their name and their real, whatever it was, and you could actually look that up in the Jockey Club. And so that sort of started people who were inquiring with the Jockey Club, like, what is this horse's name, how old is he? And sometimes they never had papers with them. So, yeah, no, absolutely. I think you guys helped push them on with that program. Anyway, I'm sorry. Jazz, I'm Jazz is enthusiastic for that.
Let's hear a little bit from Clare and Tom.
My name is Tom Mansmann, and I'm a trainer and coach on staff at Pacific Farms. And we're located in the Old Dominion Hunt Territory, just outside of Middleburg, Virginia. I think one of the things that stood out the most is we were talking about the Retired Racehorse Project being one of the only, if not definitely the largest grouping of thoroughbred lovers outside of racing. And for Claire and I, the first time we experienced the Retired Racehorse Project, that was definitely an overwhelming, palpable theme, is that there were several hundred people, and over the years, over 500 entries of people from all over the country, Washington State, Colorado, California, Canada, New York, Florida, that were all came together because of this one sole kind of passion, and that's the love for the thoroughbred horses. My background is my father's a veterinarian, and probably 75% of his business in the 80s was thoroughbred horses. He had some racehorses, our family had some racehorses on a small scale. His mother was one of the early women masters of hounds in Pennsylvania. And her father was a professional horseman that came here from England. So as a fourth generation horseman, I didn't know anything different. Our riding horses as children were all thoroughbreds. I think if you ask me what is unique about the Retired Racehorse Project as it pertains to other aftercare, that it is the buzzword. And I think what they have done so well is to feature the diversity of the thoroughbred horse. And that the thoroughbred horse, we know now that even if it has sustained an injury while racing, that their careers, they can do so many other things at a much lower impact physically than racing. So their viability and their careers after racing are literally unlimited. You had mentioned, the bygone era of the thoroughbred horse dominating hunters and dominating show jumping, dominating eventing, dominating polo. And we've seen a shift in that in sport horse, careers outside of that. But what the Retired Racehorse Project has single-handedly done is brought back the thoroughbred horse to the limelight of just how unbelievably diverse and athletic they are. And so if you ask us what's different about the Retired Racehorse Project compared to other aftercare organizations, when you get to the end of the tax year and your accountant says, hey, you should probably make a donation somewhere. Or if you have friends that don't maybe even know a lot about the thoroughbred industry, or especially if you are involved in thoroughbred racing, which again, I have to say, is one of our great loves. We love thoroughbred racing, we love steeplechasing, we love 3D eventing, we love all the amazing careers that these horses can have, is that the Retired Racehorse Project wants to give and feature the thoroughbred horse to a career outside of racing. It's not just limited to living in a field or even if a horse has had an injury or something like that, there's competitive trail. At our little business, most of the school horses that we have are retired racehorses. And some of those horses are older now, and they may be, have some arthritis or, their earlier careers, but they're still bringing on the next generation of young children to learn riding, and adults that have never touched a horse before. Their first interaction is with a horse, specifically a thoroughbred racehorse. So I think that's the biggest connection between the Retired Racehorse Project and all of us is truly the love of the horse.
Yeah, that's all super well said. And Clare, another portion of Pacific Farms. Tom and I, when we first got involved in the makeover in 2016, our children were quite young, and I had taken quite a break from riding. Our son had some health issues, and then, of course, just raising young children in general. So Tom had been holding down most of the business, and we heard about the makeover, and at the same time, somebody had sent us a thoroughbred off the track to train and to sell. And we just thought it sounded like a lot of fun. We haven't been competing much in those years. We had a very competitive, youthful career and had really taken a break. And so we showed up at the makeover, and the story of us being late, we blew every tire on the way to the point where we were actually late. Tom was changing his clothes in the car for the division. And that all to say is we rolled in late, where the kids are little, and I'm sure there's plenty of parents in here that can relate to the lunacy of the whole thing. But we show up and ended up just having the best weekend. He actually switched divisions because we were that late, but it went very well. Of course, was top 10. And went on to a field hunter career as well for a master. And we had the best stablemates. They watched our kids when we would go to things. They told us all the things that we missed. We stay in touch to this day. And so we had so much fun, kind of coming off of maybe a little bit of competition burnout from our earlier career. That we were looking for, not a total career change, but kind of a re-careering, much like these horses can use sometimes. And so we got more horses each year. Our clients really kind of caught the bug, or bring us clients, because the whole week in Kentucky just turned out to be a fun trip. We actually made it kind of a family vacation, get the camper going, and you're with some of the most positive, accepting people who are, it's so much fun to see the thoroughbred horse in the Western tack. I don't know why that's extra fun, but it really is. It's so fun to watch the polo. We're very comfortable with eventing, but I love to see, especially juniors out there on these horses, and you see the horse take care of the rider, and that's what we love about the thoroughbred is how careful they are and how they take care of us, and that's why we're comfortable putting students on them, even though we know the power that they have, we know the speed that they have, we know the athleticism, but they're trustworthy in their care and their footwork and in their sensitivity. So since then, between us riding or clients, we've probably been involved with about 15 to 20 horses that have gone to the makeover since 2016, and we continue to stand behind the mission and vision of the Retired Racehorse Project, and we really incorporate that into all of our training. We do have plenty of other non-race horses on the farm, but they all work together anyway, and the race horses help out the other horses, and the Irish horses help out the race horses, and so it's been a really fun, true community event that we get to do, and have really created this network of a family surrounding these horses.
Well, I think we're going to have to wrap up, and you guys have been like the most self-moderating panel ever, so thank you for making my job easy, and I'm sitting here looking at my notes, and each one of you has touched on most of it in one way, shape, or form, but I think as a closing question in 200 words or less, what would be your advice to somebody who is looking at doing the makeover for the first time, or possibly purchasing and getting started with a thoroughbred?
Resources, and I don't mean financial resources. I mean, there's a lot of people that are very, very honest. There's a lot of really neat places to get thoroughbreds. If you don't know anybody, find them. Find the Jazzes and the Rosies and the Clare and Toms. Find the people. There's others that we could list that really have great reputations and great sources to find a horse if you don't have your own source, and do it. I mean, it for me, it honestly has been life changing. I mean, people come up to me now and they're like, "Oh, you're thoroughbred, so you're Lindy. Is this talk show man?" This is talk show man. Unfortunately, he's got a kind of disposition that he thrives on it as well, but it's a great experience, and it will change how you think of yourself as a horse person, and I know that's what it's done for me, so anyway, I'm thankful that did not.
Not only life-changing for you, but for the horses.
For the horses as well, and that was the other thing I was going to add is I did not give Talk Show Man back after the makeover. I think his name has become as synonymous with mine as it has with anybody that he's been with throughout his career. So, yeah, do it. It's totally worthwhile. And the neat thing about it is, too, not only you do it, and then you talk about it, your friends will want to do it, and they will talk about it. And then their friends will want to do it, and they will talk about it. And you can't get stuck. I did make it to my first choice discipline, and I actually did somehow or another get the courage up to do my second choice discipline. Not all horses want to necessarily do the disciplines that you think that they're going to do when you start out. So go into it, have an open mind. If you leave and it's not the horse that does the discipline that you want to pursue, there's some really, really great avenues to look to find the next best partner for that horse, and then you get to start all over again. So, yeah, do it.
So Kirsten, tell us a little bit about how people can watch When Is the Makeover and how many people watch it this year.
So the Thoroughbred Makeover is every October. So this year, I can never name the dates off the top of my head. It's the second week in October. Yeah, that-ish. It always moves around. Yeah, you can't miss, and in October, you can't avoid it, basically. But the finale is live streamed. The overall competition structure is that there's 2 days of preliminary competition, and then we do it kind of like dog show style, where the top 5 in each of the 10 disciplines advance to the finale, which is live streamed on Saturday, which is also supported by Maryland Jockey Club. Thank you. So that is how you guys can follow along. But we do, our website has, as the horses are registered, it's all public on our website, and you can look, and they each have their own unique little profiles. It says where they're bred and where they, what track they retired from, and really doing our best to, increase the awareness and allow people to kind of engage with the process, follow the horses, that sort of thing.
Where they're bred, because Maryland breds are recognized as our Kentucky breds or Pennsylvania breds, because we're all, breeding horses in this region. So yeah, I think it's time for a question or two. And any comments, Neil? What about polo? Have you ever? I know you've been almost there. Have you?
No, I've done
He's been,
4 times,
yeah.
and I still have all 4 of them. Yeah, that's how I got involved, was meeting Stuart and eventually convincing him to include polo in it.
And do you play the thoroughbreds at your club? Do you play your clubs?
Yeah.
Where is that? Why don't you tell us?
So there's a lot of polo in Maryland, there's a lot of polo up here. I play in Montgomery County at Congressional Polo Club, and all of the 5 polo ponies that I own are thoroughbreds off the track. 4 of them I've taken off the track, and 1 I purchased off the track. And I would love at some point to commission a study, because the amount of horses that go into polo, because a professional polo player will probably have a couple of dozen horses and they take them off the track. And I've always said that I think probably more horses come off the track and go to the polo field than a lot of other disciplines, just because of those numbers. And I'll jump in and add one that hasn't been mentioned. Is I've heard people say that the makeover is the most fun horse show around, and I certainly think it is. I wasn't exposed to horse shows growing up, and I love going to it. And I love the people, as Jazz said, the most accepting people, all the different disciplines that you get to see. So 10 disciplines in one horse show, and it's a great thing.
Everybody's rooting for everybody else. It's
Yeah.
competitive. You guys are all.
And you're running to watch your friends, and you can't get there because all the times are posted, but you know so many people. And some of them you just met because they're stabling next to you or behind you, and you're trying to go see everybody all the time.
And that's the other great thing is, so you go out for dinner and someone will say, well, I'll do the night check tonight, and you guys can go in and all the sort of the juggling of back and forth.
Sometimes people that haven't done it before are appalled that we make everybody compete against one another. Like, we don't have, the results are the results. There's bonus awards for juniors and amateurs and that sort of thing, but we make everybody compete against one another. And I think people that haven't been are very taken aback by that, because it's rather untraditional for horse shows. But the community and everything really negates anything that somebody could think would be a drawback about that. And then we also find that amateurs and juniors sometimes do better than the professionals. The kids have, we've had kids win the whole thing twice. And I think, sometimes I've theorized, and Stuart used to say too, he always loved to see kids on thoroughbreds, because they don't have the kind of emotional baggage in their riding that adults do sometimes. And I also think amateurs do quite well because they have more time to invest in the horses too. So it's yeah, we really don't have a lot of space for that. We're all here to have a good time and enjoy our horses. So any other questions from the group or last minute additions?